Hey everybody, Chef Bates here, and wow, we're done. We're at chapter 10, Cleaning and Sanitizing. Oh my goodness, we're finished. Can you believe it? ServSafe ends with a bunch of very practical instructions on how to clean your restaurant correctly. Nothing in this chapter is theoretical. It's all applicable to what happens every day in every commercial kitchen in America. Well, maybe not every single one. There's nasty, dirty restaurants. They're probably not doing any of it. Based on what I've seen on some of those kitchen nightmares with Gordon Ramsay, an excellent show, even if he does have a potty mouth. There's a lot of amateur chefs out there who just don't know what the heck they're doing. Chapter 10 is split into 7 sections. It goes over the factors that affect cleaning, the 4 different types of cleansers, the 4 types of sanitizers, how to clean and sanitize food contact surfaces, how to clean non-food contact surfaces, how to purchase, use, and store the chemicals we need to keep our restaurant clean, and then they close out the chapter by talking about the nuts and bolts of putting together a comprehensive cleaning program. None of this material is hard, really, but there are a lot of little details you will need to remember for the ServSafe exam. If you don't understand a term or concept, go back and watch that section again till you're comfortable. That's the only way to ensure you'll be ready when you sit for the certification exam, and that really holds true of the whole freaking ServSafe thing. We're going to start with a ridiculously basic idea. Everything in your operation must be kept clean, and I mean it, everything. You know by now that cleaning removes food and other dirt from a surface, while sanitation removes or reduces pathogens. That's absolutely true. However, plain old crud and grime can be tricky to get off. There are several factors that are going to affect the cleaning process. Dirt. It's gross. It's grimy. We got to get it off. Certain types of dirt require special cleaning methods. The condition of the dirt also affects how easily it can be removed. For example, dried, cooked on, or baked on dirt will be much more difficult to remove than, say, leftover macaroni and cheese. For example, look at that picture. This refrigerated station that's used to keep pancake batter cold during breakfast service is going to require some aggressive cleaning to avoid a nasty interaction with that health inspector on their next visit. So, gross. Cleaning is much more difficult if your restaurant gets hard water from the municipal system. What is hard water? Well, when there is a lot of dissolved magnesium and calcium in the water that's coming through the pipes, that water is called hard. The more dissolved minerals that are in there, the harder the water is. Hard water leaves dried minerals behind. This residue is called limescale. Limescale can build up inside dishwashers, coffee and tea machines, and anywhere water is regularly heated to above 100 degrees Fahrenheit, so in other words, basically everywhere in your kitchen. Scale has to be removed to keep your equipment working properly. Another problem is this. Many detergents don't work well in hard water at all. The minerals react with the detergent and decrease how effective it is. If you have this problem, you're going to have to work with your vendor to identify a detergent, a chemical, that will work even though your water's hard, which will be a pain in the booty, but you can do it. In general, the hotter the water, the better it dissolves and loosens dirt, and the better it will be at cleaning. Here's a way to remember. If the water's not steaming, it's not time for cleaning. I came up with that by myself. I'm proud of me. Different surfaces call for different cleansers. You don't clean stainless steel with the same type of chemicals you use to clean cooked on grease in a fryer. It just wouldn't work. Many cleaners work well in one situation, but not in another. The wrong cleanser might even damage equipment or you. Make sure you know what you are using and what it is intended for, and then do that. Scouring or scrubbing a surface helps remove the outer layer of dirt. This allows the cleanser to penetrate deeper. That makes sense, right? The longer dirt on a surface is exposed to a cleanser, the easier the dirt is to remove. I mean, it seems obvious, right? Detergents penetrate and loosen dirt, so the longer a detergent is in contact with dirt, the easier it will slide right off. By the way, the chef in that picture, his name is Thomas Keller. He's one of the greatest chefs in the world. We'll come back to why a chef of his caliber is working the dish pit towards the end of the chapter. Something fun to look forward to. Effective cleaning depends on understanding the 4 types of chemicals that are used in the commercial kitchen. Use the wrong one and you could damage equipment, cause a chemical burn on your skin, or just never quite get that piece of equipment clean that you've been working on. You'll start cursing. You'll lose your temper. You'll throw a pot at your executive chef. He'll fire you for being a crazy person. You'll never learn how to cook anything other than burnt grilled cheese sandwiches and cold cereal with curdled milk. Your honeyboo will leave you for a more competent cook, because everybody loves a good cook. And then you'll surely die alone. Don't let this happen to you. Listen carefully. Let's start with the most basic thing you need to know. A cleanser is a chemical that removes food, dirt, rust, stains, minerals, or other deposits. Basically, cleansers clean things. All cleansers must be stable. They shouldn't explode. They should be non-corrosive. That means that they're not going to eat away at metal or start dissolving plastic. And they need to be safe to use, or as safe as reasonable. Cleansers are divided into 4 categories, each with different purposes. These include detergents, degreasers, delimers, and abrasive cleansers. Some categories overlap, of course. For example, most abrasive cleansers and some delimers contain detergents too. Some detergents may also contain degreasers. You know that soap you have at home on your kitchen counter for washing dishes? That falls into the category of a detergent degreaser. Remember that commercial for Dawn soap a while back where adorable baby ducks that had gotten caught in an oil spill were rescued? Dawn dishwashing soap to the rescue! They were using powerful degreasing agents as well as detergent ingredients to save those baby ducks. Aww, so cute and not dead. Yay, ducks! Ask your supplier to help you pick cleansers that meet your needs. To use cleansers correctly, follow a couple of guidelines. Okay, I'm going to say this so many times you're going to get sick of it. I'm going to get sick of saying it. Follow manufacturer's instructions. Pick up the container, my friends, and read the freaking label. If not used the correct way, many cleansers may not work and can even be dangerous. I'm going to say that a lot too. Only use cleansers for their intended purpose and never ever use one type of cleanser in place of another unless the intended use is exactly the same. So don't just switch out one degreaser for, say, a really powerful detergent or a delimer. It's not going to do the trick. You might hurt yourself. So let's talk about these cleansers, right? We'll start with detergents. Different detergents are used for different cleaning tasks. However, all detergents contain surfactants, surface acting agents. Surfactants. That's a great word, isn't it? Surfactants reduce surface tension between dirt and the surface being cleaned. These allow the detergent to quickly penetrate and soften the dirt. General-purpose detergents are mildly alkaline cleansers, which means they are just a bit more alkaline than dish soap. General-purpose detergents remove fresh dirt from floors, walls, ceilings, prep surfaces, and most equipment and utensils. Why would I need to remove food from floors, walls, and ceilings? Well, very recently, a student of mine dropped a pot of chili on the floor, and it hit the floor, the walls, and the ceiling. He was there for a really long time cleaning up. Anyway, moving on, heavy-duty detergents are highly alkaline cleansers, which means they are at the top of the pH scale, and that includes stuff like bleach and oven cleanser. Heavy-duty detergents remove wax, aged or dried-on dirt, and baked-on grease. Dishwashing detergents, for example, are highly alkaline, which means they're also kind of dangerous. Then there are degreasers. They have ingredients for, I bet you could guess it, dissolving grease. They work well on burned-on grease, better than pretty much anything else, and they're good for backsplashes, oven doors, and range hoods, the big hoods that go over commercial ovens. Delimers are special. They are an acid, and they are used to remove hard water limescale. Remember earlier when we were talking about hard water? Well, hard water leaves behind deposits called limescale. Nothing can remove that stuff except for a delimer. You're going to use these on your steam tables, your dishwashers, sinks, anywhere water is heated in your kitchen, really. Follow manufacturer's instructions very, very carefully because these guys can cause significant chemical burns. Significant. This is not the kind of product you will ever use in my kitchen. I'm the only one who touches the delimer because it's that dangerous. And last on the list of our cleansers are the abrasives. These have like the little scouring agent that helps scrub hard to remove dirt. We use Barkeeper's Friend in our kitchen. You might use Comet at home or something similar. You use it to remove baked-on food, but it can scratch surfaces because it has those scouring agents in it. So this isn't the kind of thing that you're going to scrub on a beautiful stainless steel table, because if you do, you're going to leave gouges all over the thing, and I'm going to be ticked. So that's it for this unit. We just talked about dirt and the different types of chemicals we use to get rid of it. Next up is sanitizing. Hey everybody, Chef Bates. I'm back here at Chapter 10, Cleaning is nice. We've been talking about cleaning. It's nice. But sanitizing is where the action is. Sanitizing is where we really ensure that our food is safe. Sanitizing reduces pathogens on a surface to safe levels. It's not enough to wash your plates and glasses in the sink like you do at home. You wash them in the sink, you rinse off the suds, and you kind of hope for the best, right? Food contact surfaces in a restaurant must be sanitized after they have been cleaned and rinsed. Everything that touches our guest food has to be cleaned, rinsed, sanitized, and air dried. You can do this sanitizing a couple different ways. You can use chemicals or you can use heat. We're going to talk about both of those. Ready? I'm ready. Let's go. Heat sanitizing. We're going to kill it with heat. One way to sanitize items is soak them in really, really hot water. For this method to work, the water has got to be at least 171 degrees Fahrenheit, and the item has to be soaked for at least 30 seconds. Another way to heat sanitize items is just to run them through a high-temperature dishwasher, where the final rinse is 180 degrees. That's nice. Chemicals are a lot more common. We use chemical sanitizers a lot in the kitchen. They're regulated by both state and federal environmental protection agencies. Those are the EPAs. I bet you didn't even know that states have their own EPA department. They do. Even Florida. Seriously. Florida has an EPA department. True story. Chemical sanitizers come in 3 forms. Chlorine is the first. Chlorine sanitizer is bleach, the same stuff you use to make your socks white again. It will kill almost every foodborne pathogen in the universe. It's got some problems, though. Mainly, it's a poison, and it's going to kill your Uncle Frank if he gets too much in his food. Move on. Iodine, which you may also be familiar with because it's used a lot in medical circumstances. It's used as a medical sanitizer. That stuff they rub on your skin right before they give you a shot? Very frequently is iodine. It's also used in some restaurants to sanitize equipment. It tends to stain everything pea yellow. So that's a problem. Moving on. Then there are quaternary ammonium compounds. Quaternary, let's try saying that. Quaternary. Quaternary ammonium compounds. They're almost always referred to as quats. Quats come in many forms. They may be solid for use in special dispensers like we have in our kitchen, like you see in the picture. They come as a powder. They come in these tiny little blue pills that dissolve called stearamine tablets. Recently, there's a new product that's available that we use in our teaching kitchen. It's a dish detergent sanitizer combo, and it cleans and sanitizes at the same time. If you're going to use this in a 3-compartment sink, you would fill up 2 sinks with the exact same stuff. You'd use one sink for the washing and the other sink for the sanitizing. Hold on to that thought. We'll come back to it. Now, when we're talking about chemical sanitizing, we're going to either soak them in a sanitizing solution, or we're going to rinse, we're going to swab, or we're going to spray them with that sanitizing solution. Like in the picture, you got a spray bottle full of sanitizer, and you're going to squirt it all over a table. In some cases, a detergent sanitizer blend can be used. Like I said, you're going to use it once to clean, and then you're going to use it a second time to sanitize. There's a bunch of factors that influence the effectiveness of a chemical sanitizer. The most critical include concentration, temperature, contact time, water hardness, and pH. Now, we're going to have to memorize these, so let's just start working on it now. There's 5 of them. Concentration, temperature, contact time, water hardness, and pH. Sanitizing solution is a mix of chemical sanitizer and water. The concentration of this mix, the amount of sanitizer to water, is critical. Too much water will make the solution weak and useless. It's not going to kill anything. Too much sanitizer may make the solution too strong and may be even unsafe. It can also leave a bad taste on items or corrode metal, which is bad. Concentration is measured in parts per million, ppm. To check the concentration of a sanitizer solution, you're going to be using a test kit. Make sure that you're using the right test kit for the sanitizer that you use. The kits are available from the chemical manufacturer who made the sanitizer. Hard water, food bits, leftover detergent, all these things can reduce the solution's effectiveness. So you're going to have to check your concentration pretty often. Change your sanitizing solution when it looks dirty, and if you check it and the concentration is too low, fix it. I don't know. Why are they telling us to do that? That seems so stupid. The water in a sanitizing solution must be the correct temperature. So you're going to have to follow manufacturer's recommendations. Sometimes the water has to be hot. Sometimes the water has to be cool. Most frequently, it's at slightly above room temperature, so about 75 degrees. When we're talking about contact time, we're referring to how long a piece of equipment must be submerged completely in the water for pathogens to be effectively reduced. In other words, the sanitizer must make contact with the item for a specific time, and that's going to be different for every different sanitizer in the world. That Bain Marie in the photo is being sanitized in an iodine sanitizing solution. For an iodine sanitizer to do its job, it's got to be in contact with the item it's sanitizing for at least 30 seconds. But you knew that. Or maybe you didn't. Now you do. Iodine, 30 seconds. Water hardness can affect how well a sanitizer works. Remember, water hardness is the amount of minerals in your water. Usually, the two minerals are calcium and magnesium. In addition to water hardness, water pH can also affect a sanitizer. So you're going to have to find out what the water hardness and pH of the water that you get is. Or you can have your water professionally tested. Then work with your supplier Then work with your supplier to determine the correct type and concentration of sanitizer to use with your water. It makes sense to me. I wanted to give you just an opportunity to look at some of these guidelines that let us know what to do with different types of sanitizers. We've got quats, and then we've got iodines and bleach. And they all have different requirements, parts per million changes, the temperature of the water, the length of time it needs to be in contact, the concentration level. All these things change depending on the type of sanitizer you're using. Well, it's just good to know. You don't really actually have to memorize it or anything. So we've got our sanitizer. We know what to do with it. Now we're going to actually get out there and start sanitizing some stuff, killing those buggies. Surfaces that don't touch food only need to be cleaned and rinsed to prevent the accumulation of dirt, right? Your floor doesn't need to be sanitized. However, any surface that touches food must be cleaned, rinsed, and sanitized. To clean and sanitize a surface, we got steps. You know how we love steps here at ServSafe. We got steps. There are 5 steps to cleaning and sanitizing a food contact surface. We're talking about like a table. We're talking about like a cutting board. We're talking about something that's big enough to where you can't go and put it in the dishwasher. This might seem basic, but follow along and ask yourself this question, okay? Do I really clean this way? Do I really do this? Well, here's a hint. I've been watching you guys. You don't. Nope. So first up, we're going to scrape or remove any food bits from the surface. You're going to use the correct cleaning tools, such as a nylon brush or pad or cloth towel. You do not clean a stainless steel table with a washcloth that's been soaking in sanitizer. First, you just get up the food. Then you're going to go get some detergent and you're going to wash the surface. That's step 2. Prepare the cleaning solution with an approved detergent. Then you're going to wash the surface with the correct cleaning tools, such as a cloth towel. Get the food off, then wash it. Then you're going to actually rinse the surface with clean water. Then you're going to sanitize the surface. Use the correct sanitizing solution. Prepare the concentration per manufacturer's requirements. Use the right tool like a cloth towel. Make sure the entire surface has come in contact with the sanitizing solution, and then very importantly, allow it to air dry. Don't grab a dry towel and wipe off the sanitizer. Why would you do that? You just put it on there. All the food contact surfaces in your kitchen have to be cleaned and sanitized at specific times. This is important since you can't tell by looking at a work table or cutting board whether it has any pathogens on it. We're so accustomed to being able to look at something and knowing it's dirty by look that we forget that you can't see bacteria or viruses. That table might look very clean, but it might be actually very, very dirty. So you're going to clean and sanitize all your equipment at these times, obviously after you're done using them. Before working with a different type of food, for example, if you change between prepping raw chicken and cutting some lettuce, you're definitely going to want to clean and sanitize. After handling different raw TCS fruits and vegetables. For example, if you've been cutting a bunch of melons and then you're switching to cutting a bunch of, say, onions, you're going to have to clean and sanitize. Anytime there is an interruption during a task and the items being used might have been contaminated. So if you have to walk away from cutting all those melons, for example, and you take a phone call and you're away for 20 minutes or so and you come back, don't just go back to work. Clean and sanitize the surface. And after 4 hours of continuous use of any piece of equipment in your whole kitchen. Equipment manufacturers will usually provide instructions for cleaning and sanitizing stationary equipment like slicers or those giant oversized stand mixers or steamers. In general, you've got a couple steps to follow. Unplug the equipment, please. Before you get started, unplug the equipment. Take every removable part off. Wash, rinse, and sanitize all those removable parts by hand. If it's allowable, you could run them through the dishwasher, but generally speaking, you're going to want to wash them by hand. Then you're going to scrape or remove food from the actual equipment surface itself. Hey, how about we wash stuff? Let's use a cleaning solution prepared with an approved cleanser, and we're going to wash the outside of that equipment all over. Use the right tool, right? A nylon brush or pad. Then rinse the entire surface with clean water. If it's an electrical piece of equipment, be cautious with this step. Just be cautious. Not all electrical equipment can be like doused in water. Sanitize the surface like you see in the picture. Make sure the sanitizer comes in contact with all of the surfaces. Check the concentration of that sanitizer, right? We're not just going to start randomly dumping sanitizer. We're going to check the concentration and make sure it's right. Allow all the surfaces to air dry. The parts that you took apart and washed separately, the machine itself, and when everything is dry, put it back together. I mean, you could have figured that out. I can't believe that I explained something that dumb. You could have figured all of that out. Some pieces of equipment like soft serve yogurt machines and cappuccino machines are designed to have cleaning and sanitizing solutions pumped through them. These types of tools are called clean in place equipment because you clean them in place. Because they hold TCS food, they must be cleaned and sanitized every time they're used, unless otherwise indicated by the manufacturer. I have never seen any manufacturer say, wash and sanitize every other day. It's every day. All right, well, that was it for the part 2. We did the whole sanitizing section already. You guys are amazing. Next up, the dishes. Hey, Chef Bates, welcome back. It's time to do the dishes. I know you hate dishes. I hate dishes. Actually, I don't hate dishes. I just lied to you. I don't hate dishes at all. I find it kind of relaxing at this point in my life. Let's be honest, in a commercial kitchen, that's a lot of our time is spent on washing pots, pans, plates, knives, forks, cutting boards, all this stuff. So we're going to talk about dishwashing programs in this little mini unit. And someone's going to ask me, why do you need to know about this stuff? Why? Why can't I just go in there and do it? Well, here's why. Let's pretend that you have been hired as an executive sous chef, and the executive chef walks you into his kitchen and he says, hey, look over there at the dish pit. What's wrong? And if you aren't able to look at what's happening and know what's wrong, he's not going to hire you because as a food safety professional, you have to know that kind of thing. And I don't want you to get fired on your first day. That's your first big boy job, your first big girl job. You're making $80,000 a year. You don't want to get fired because you forgot that a dishwashing area has to have a well-planned layout. It has to have a separate area nearby for washing hands. You don't want to get fired for not knowing that it has to have a sufficient water supply, especially hot water. We learned that last chapter. You don't want to get fired because there's no 2 or 3 compartment sink and you don't notice, because you'll need a 2 or 3 compartment sink for cleaning pots and pans that won't fit in the dish machine. The dishwashing machine must have a water pressure and temperature gauge, that it's got to have a protected storage area for clean tableware and utensils, that the staff have been trained to operate all of it. I want you to have a job. That's why you need to learn it. A job. Dishwashing machines sanitize by using either hot water or a chemical sanitizing solution. High-temperature machines use hot water to clean and sanitize. If the water's not hot enough, items aren't sanitized, right? Extremely hot water can bake food onto the item, so if you have a high-temperature dishwashing machine, it's really important you scrub those plates before you put them in. The temperature of the final sanitizing rinse must be at least 180 degrees Fahrenheit, like you see in the picture. For stationary rack, single temperature machines like your dishwashing machine that you have at home, it's got to get to 165 degrees Fahrenheit. The dishwasher must have a built-in thermometer that checks water temperature at the manifold. This is where the water sprays into the tank. The dishwasher must have a built-in thermometer which checks water temperature. It's gotta. Chemical sanitizing machines are also really, really effective. They clean and sanitize items at much lower temperatures than a high-temperature dishwashing machine, but they require very specific chemicals, so it's important that you follow manufacturer's guidelines carefully. I'm not even going to re-record that. I stumbled all over myself. You can read. Operate your dishwasher according to the manufacturer's recommendations and keep it in good repair, please. Here's a couple of general guidelines. You're going to clean that machine as often as needed, checking it at least once a day. Clear the spray nozzles of food in foreign objects. Remove mineral deposits when needed. Fill the tanks with clean water and make sure detergent and sanitizer dispensers are filled. Dishes must always be scraped off and rinsed prior to running them through the dishwasher, always. If necessary, you could even pre-soak them, especially if they've got dried-on food. Pre-soaking's your friend. Load dish racks so the water spray will reach all surfaces. Don't overload your dish rack. And never ever use a towel to dry items after they've gone through the dish machine. This will contaminate them. Make sure they are completely dry before stacking or storing. Don't stack 2 wet plates together, please. Don't do it. Let them air dry first. Sheesh. Operations that are using high-temperature dishwashing machines have special guidelines that they gotta follow. You have to provide your staff with an easy and quick way to measure the surface temperatures of items being sanitized. Easiest way is like in the picture, there's a maximum registering thermometer. You just run it through the dishwasher, it tells you how hot it got. You're going to have to be prepared to take quick action if you discover that your dishwashing machine is not getting hot enough. Because sometimes dishwashing machines need to take a break, and the mechanic has to come out and give them a massage to make them work again. If that happens, you're going to have to switch over to a 3-compartment sink to wash all your stuff. The method you use to check the dishwasher must provide an irreversible record of the highest temperature reached during the sanitizing rinse. This is very important because if somebody gets sick in your restaurant, you want to be able to prove that it wasn't because you weren't checking your dishwasher. Heat-sensitive tapes, those are good tools too. We talked about that like 3 chapters ago. You knew all this stuff. 3-compartment sinks must be set up correctly before use. That means you're going to have to clean and sanitize the entire sink, including the drain boards on either side of the sinks prior to use. Here is what I've noticed students do. Because they don't clean their sink at home before they fill it up with soapy water, they assume they don't need to clean the sink at school before they fill it up with soapy water, and this is dumb. First, clean and sanitize, then fill the sinks. You're going to fill your first sink with detergent and water. That water temperature needs to be at least 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Check it from time to time to make sure it's that hot. Fill the second sink with clean water. You don't actually have to fill up your rinse sink with clean water if you're going to be spray rinsing them, with a little hosey doodad. But, fill it up with clean rinse water. The third sink is for sanitizer, and you're going to fill that up, check the concentration with a test strip, and make sure that it's there. Somewhere in that area, you need to have a clock with a second hand so food handlers can time how long items have been in the sanitizer, because they need to be in there for most sanitizers, 30 whole seconds, and that's a long time. Quick note, let's say you run out of sanitizer. You can sanitize using hot water in a 3-compartment sink, but that means you're going to have to get the water up to 171 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, there are a lot of hot water tanks that aren't going to give you water that hot. But if you are using hot water as a means to sanitize, you're going to have to soak those dishes for 30 seconds, and you're going to have some means of testing the water regularly to make sure it stays hot. Because even if it goes in at 171 degrees Fahrenheit, after 10 minutes, it's not there anymore. And I got to tell you, this method is rare. 171 degrees Fahrenheit water is going to scald the hands of your dishwashing team, and they will sue you. They will sue you for having cooked fingers. Regardless of what you use, make sure you follow the guidelines previously discussed for sanitizers and all manufacturers' recommendations. All of them, every one. So what are the proper ways to wash dishes? I have kids laugh at me every time this comes up because they're like, I just know how you wash dishes, chef. Probably not. Number 1, scrape items before you wash them, please. Do not put a dish that has a bunch of food on it down into your sink of soapy water. That's dumb. You're going to wash those items in the first sink after they've been rinsed or scraped. Use a brush, a cloth towel, whatever you need to loosen the dirt. Change the water in detergent when the suds are gone. Hey, there's a good idea. If you don't see any bubbles, that water isn't, soapy. Surely you knew that. You knew that. Okay, rinse the items in the second sink, or you can spray them. You can dip them. You just want to make sure all the traces of food and detergent are gone. If you're going to dip your items to rinse them off, change the water if it seems to be sudsy. If the soap is starting to get too much into your rinse thing, you're going to have to change that water. 4, sanitize the items. Change the sanitizing solution when the temperature of the water or the sanitizer concentration falls below the requirements. And don't ever rinse the item after you've sanitized it. This makes no sense. Don't rinse off the sanitizer. The sanitizer is there to kill the bugs. You rinse it off, no bug death. Kill the bugs. Murder them. Step 5, you're going to air dry that stuff. Do not put it away wet. Do not use a towel to dry the items. That'll contaminate them. Congratulations, everything's washed. Let's put it away right, please. Once your utensils, your tableware, and equipment have been cleaned and sanitized, they must be stored in a way that will protect them from pests, contamination, dirt, and moisture. To do that, you're going to have to do three things. Store them 6 inches off the floor. Everything's 6 inches off the floor. This is no exception. Clean and sanitize drawers and shelves before items are stored. If you walk into our equipment closet and you open up some of those cubbies that are holding all of our tools and you look in the bottom of them, you will be grossed out. My students have such a hard time remembering that you have to clean and sanitize where you're putting the stuff, not just the thing itself. What's the point of cleaning and sanitizing a spoon and putting it into a dirty box? It's just dirty again. Jesus. Store glasses and cups upside down on a clean and sanitized shelf or rack. Silverware has its own very special rules. Flatware and utensils have to be stored with their handles up so staff can pick them without touching a food contact surface. You want your employees to be able to pick up a fork without actually touching the tines of the fork. That's going to help prevent cross-contamination and the transfer of pathogens. You're going to clean and sanitize trays and carts that are used to carry clean tableware and utensils. Do that regularly. And cover every food contact surface between use to prevent against grease condensation and dust. So, that giant stand mixer we have in the bakery? We cover it. That big cart full of plates? It stays covered. We want to cover everything that is a food contact surface regularly, usually with plastic. It'll prevent dust getting into your cookies, and nobody wants a dusty cookie. Nobody. And if you do, you're weird. I mean, seriously. Okay, so this is going to be a little different. What normal people call washcloths, or worse yet, they call them rags, ServSafe calls wiping cloths. Wiping cloths are often used in operations to wipe up food spills and to wipe down equipment surfaces. There are two types of wiping cloths that are used in commercial kitchens: wet wiping cloths and dry wiping cloths. Each one has its own requirements. Don't ever use cloths that are meant for wiping up food spills for any other purpose. I think this will make more sense in just a second. But let's start off with a very basic idea. In the kitchen, we have wet cloths and we have dry cloths. Cool? Moving on. Wet wiping cloths are the ones you probably know all about. You're used to this. It's an absorbent cloth, and you use it for cleaning counters, equipment, floors, small children, puppies, just about anything that you can get to stay still. Wet wipe cloth, that's what you do. Store your wet wiping cloth in a sanitizing solution between uses, not folded up and sitting on the counter. Store it inside the sanitizing solution. You're going to have to change that solution when it no longer meets requirements for the sanitizer being used. For most sanitizers, this is every 2 to 4 hours. You have to change your sanitizer. Or if it becomes contaminated or dirty. I mean, if you're wiping up some chicken guts that splashed onto your counter, change the sanitizer before you use the solution to prep a cutting board for making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. That just makes sense. In fact, you should always keep cloths that come in contact with raw meat, fish, and poultry separate from all your other cleaning cloths. So, first up, wet wiping cloths, they're the ones we clean with. Dry cloths, on the other hand, are something that's very just restaurant. One of the differences between commercial kitchens and home kitchens is this: restaurants use dry wiping cloths. We use them to put the final touch on plates before the dish is served to a guest, such as wiping a plate's rim of food drips, like you see the chef doing in the picture. Dry wiping cloths used for this purpose must be kept dry while in use, and you got to put a little bit of extra effort in to make sure that you change your dry wiping cloth if it starts to get too much food on it. It can't be visibly dirty. A busy commercial kitchen will go through hundreds of dry wiping cloths on a Friday night just because you're constantly wiping down your plates to make sure they look beautiful for your guests. Dry wiping cloths, don't ever get them wet. Send them to the laundry room if they're visibly dirty. And the last thing we're going to talk about in this little section is cleaning non-food contact surfaces. This is a really brief sort of a section because, there's lots of surfaces in the commercial kitchen that don't ever come in contact with food. They're also known as non-food contact surfaces, which seems to be a little uncreative. Examples are floors, walls, ceilings, equipment exteriors like the outside of your refrigerator. That is not a food contact surface. It doesn't need to be sanitized. Because they are not food contact surfaces, they, of course, don't need to be sanitized. However, they do need to be cleaned regularly. I don't need to sanitize the outside of my refrigerator, but I do need to make sure it stays clean. Regular cleaning of non-food contact surfaces is really important. Aside from the fact that you don't want to work in a nasty kitchen, It prevents the buildup of dust, dirt, food residue, and other debris. It will also prevent the growth of pathogens, and it can help prevent a pest infestation. This is important, guys. Sometimes people might get sick and throw up or spray poo all over your establishment. I mean, I know it's gross, but it happens. If someone vomits or has explosive diarrhea in your restaurant, it's got to be cleaned up correctly. Why? Puke and poop both carry norovirus, which is very, very contagious. So cleaning the area correctly can prevent food from becoming contaminated. It will also keep others from becoming sick. To be effective, operations must have specific procedures for cleaning up hazardous waste. These procedures must address specific action that employees must take to minimize contamination and exposure to food surfaces and people. It's critical that employees be trained on all these procedures. You know what? I think vomit and poop's a good place to stop. They will come back and finish up with chemicals and cleaning programs. Your staff needs many tools and supplies to keep the operation clean, right? Lots. If you walk into our chemical storage room at school, you will be amazed. There is so many different types of things that you need to have on hand to do the job correctly. However, a lot of these chemicals can contaminate food and surfaces if they are not used and stored correctly. Many of the chemicals that we use are hazardous, so you have to know how to handle them to prevent injury to yourself and to others. I mean, it's not just all about you. Cleaning tools must be stored so they do not contaminate food and equipment. It's a best practice to store these items in a designated area like we've got. Cleaning tools should also be stored in a way that makes it easy to clean the area they're stored in. The storage area should definitely have the following things. Really good lighting so staff can see your chemicals easily. Hooks for hanging mops, brooms, and other cleaning tools off the ground so you don't get a pest problem in a wet mop. Utility or a service sink for filling buckets and washing those cleaning tools. And a floor drain for dumping dirty water like you see in the picture. To prevent contamination, never clean mops, brushes, or other tools in sinks that are used for hand washing, food prep, or dishwashing. Ever. Hand washing, food prep sinks are not for where you put the dirty crap. Dump it into the utility sink. We just talked about that. Additionally, don't dump mop water into a toilet or a urinal. That creates back siphonage. And it's also gross. And you're gross for thinking of it. Stop it. When you're storing cleaning tools, consider the following stuff, right? Place your mops in a position to air dry that isn't going to soil the walls, equipment, or supplies. Hang them up. Lean them against a wall that's got a plastic coating. Clean and rinse your buckets. Turn them upside down. Let them air dry. Store them with your other tools. If chemicals or cleaning tools have not been used or stored correctly, you're going to have to take corrective action. If your chemical storage area gets disorganized or messy, fix it. This isn't tough. Fix it. Sheesh. Many of the chemicals that are used in operation are hazardous, right? We have talked about this like 6 or 7 different ways and in 6 or 7 different times. Chemicals that we use are pretty hazardous, especially if they're used or stored in the wrong way. One of the biggest dangers is cross-contamination. To reduce this risk, you're going to follow some guidelines. Only chemicals that are approved for use in a food service operation should be used. Only chemicals that are approved for a restaurant are used in a restaurant. Don't go to Walmart and pick up something there that you think will do the job. You might kill somebody. Never keep chemicals that are not required to operate or maintain the establishment. In other words, don't have crap laying around that you don't need and shouldn't be there. That makes sense, right? To prevent contamination, always cover or remove items that could potentially become contaminated. Just cover them up. If you need to spray down a bunch of stainless steel surfaces with stainless steel polish, make sure that you cover up the plates first. This just makes sense, right? After using chemicals, make sure to clean and sanitize equipment and utensils that could have come in contact with it. And as always, one more time, follow manufacturers' guidelines and the law. Cleaning chemicals are potentially very hazardous. Chemical storage is a bigger issue than you might think. If you don't store your laundry detergent correctly, for example, freshman culinarians might be tempted to think it's sugar. That would be bad. To prevent your 9th graders from eating laundry soap, I want you to do this. Store all your chemicals in their original containers as much as possible. Some operations also designate specific areas for storing chemicals. We have a chemical storage room. Whether or not this is done, chemicals must be kept separate from food, equipment, utensils, and linens. This separation can be done in a couple of ways. You can space your chemicals apart from all your food stuff, Give it a good bit of space. You can partition off chemicals from the other items stored in the same area by using stainless steel barriers, plastic shelving that fits that purpose. But regardless of how you keep your chemicals, food, and linen separate, the chemicals always have to be stored below. So potentially hazardous chemicals can't drip into the food. I mean, that just makes sense. Don't put the bleach above a bunch of peanut butter. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but I'm sure someone will. And will point at them and laugh and go, "You're dumb, dummy." I don't even know what I'm talking about. Restaurants usually purchase their chemicals in bulk, right? This means they buy in huge amounts. They have to pay particular attention to how they're going to label their cleansers. Chemicals stored in their original container should have the manufacturer's label. If they don't, send it back and get them to ship you another order of the same thing but with labels this time, please. The labels have to include the directions for use and be clear enough to read. If you're transferring to a new container because you've bought in bulk or as a concentrate, the label on that container must list the common name of the chemical. The photo you're looking at shows a working container that's labeled with the common name of the chemical. Notice that a working container doesn't have to have the brand name, just the common name. I mean, I don't have to label the sprayer with the Ecolab Oasis Sanitizer. I just have to say it's Sanitizer. Make sense? Okay, good. There is simply no way to keep a busy restaurant as clean as it needs to be without having a well-organized cleaning program in place. There are just too many things that have to be addressed frequently, but not every day, you know? You do need to scrub out your trash cans, but not every day. You do need to clean the entire inside of all your reach-in refrigerators, but not every day. The list goes on and on. To keep your facility clean, you're going to have to create a program. And then you're going to have to train your staff on how to do it, and then stay on top of the schedule to make sure everything's getting done. Now what we're talking about is the big master program. How are we going to keep the whole place clean? To begin with, you're going to have to start with design and development. That means you'll need to identify all of your regular cleaning needs throughout the entire facility. Then, once you know what needs to be cleaned, you have to decide on when. This means writing a master cleaning schedule with the what, the when, the who, and the how clearly identified. Your fantastic cleaning program won't work if your staff doesn't know how to do it. For example, we have to clean and change the oil on our vacuum sealer after every 50 uses. Right now, we have no students who know how to do this task and no real way of counting. This means your fearless chef has to do it himself, and I sometimes forget. If a student was trained and knew what to do, I could focus on other things. Training is vital, and a master cleaning schedule will make your life so much better. After we've got the schedule together, though, we got to keep an eye on our staff to make sure our cleaning program is working and we haven't missed any important details. So if we were to break down this process just a little bit more, it would look kind of like this. Identify the what. List all the cleaning jobs, area by area. Or maybe you could list the jobs in the order they should be performed. Include both food and non-food surfaces. Remember, not just the food contact surfaces, but non-food contact surfaces too, as items that need to be cleaned. Identify the who. Okay, who's going to do each thing? Who is responsible for each task? Identify the when. Staff should clean and sanitize as needed, but major cleaning, that needs to happen when food or service will not be affected. Schedule some work shifts to allow enough time. Like we're going to have a Saturday cleaning. As soon as everybody can come back to school, we're going to do a Saturday cleaning, and everybody's going to be on hand, and we're going to get our kitchen back to order. Identify the how. Have clear, written procedures for cleaning. List cleaning tools and chemicals by name. Remember, training is really just passing on information. One good way to do this is by posting cleaning instructions near the items you want cleaned so your staff has a reference for what you want done. Of course, everyone who works for you should always follow manufacturer's instructions. Of course they should. Really? Do we need to say this anymore? ServSafe understands that just because you tell your staff to clean something and teach them how to do it, they might not be very excited about the prospect of extra cleaning. You'll probably have to do some work to get them to buy into your cleaning program. Here's what ServSafe recommends. Schedule a kickoff meeting to introduce your program to your staff. Explain the reason behind it. Stress how important cleanliness is to food safety. If your staff understands why they're doing something, they'll be more likely to do it. Schedule enough time for training. Work with small groups or conduct training by area. Show staff how to clean equipment and surfaces in each area, and provide lots of motivation. Reward staff for any job well done. Create small incentives for staff members or teams, such as an award for Clean Team of the Month. I don't know, something like that. Give them a prize. Or, give them extra credit. That usually works for me. Once you got your cleaning program up and running, it's time to make sure it's working properly. So you're going to do this. You're going to supervise your daily cleaning routines. Check all cleaning tasks against the master schedule every day. Change the master schedule as needed for any changes in menu, procedures, equipment, or maybe staff. And here's a good idea. Why don't you ask staff during some regular meetings for their input? I mean, they're the ones who are actually doing it. They know what needs to be done best. They know better than you. Most importantly, in all of this chapter, remember to set a good example. If you think you are too important to clean, if you think that you are too powerful or too big a man or too, hot pants, whatever. If you think you're too important to clean, you're a bad chef. I told you we'd come back to Thomas Keller. He's one of the best chefs in the world. He runs the French Laundry and Per Se, some of the greatest places there are anywhere. And here he is washing dishes. He isn't afraid to get his hands dirty and do what needs to be done. And if he can do it, we can do it, right? And that ends ServSafe. We're done. We have gone from the beginning of what is a foodborne illness down to the very end, Thomas Keller washing dishes. And I hope that you have gotten everything that you need. If you haven't, go back, rewatch. Over the course of all these videos, every single idea that is in the ServSafe textbooks that might potentially show up on the exam, I've talked about. So if you understand what I'm talking about on these videos, then you are ready for the test. If something has gone by too quickly or you missed an important point, you're going to have to go back. Thanks for joining me on the journey, my friends, and I'll see you in the kitchen.